The mailbox squeaked like it was laughing at her, but for Mrs. Evelyn Carter, it was the sound of betrayal. 72 years old, hands trembling from arthritis, she stared at the empty slot where her pension check should have been, her heart sinking into the kind of dread that only comes from losing your last lifeline. Evelyn had lived in Willow Creek for decades, a quiet town where everyone knew your name and your business. She'd raised 3 kids in a modest clapboard house, survived a husband who drank himself into an early grave, and now relied on that monthly $842 check to keep the lights on and the fridge stocked. But today, the mailbox was empty again. This was the 3rd time in 4 months, and Evelyn wasn't naive. She'd heard the whispers about the HOA sisters, Karen and Lynn, who strutted around town like they owned it, their sneers as sharp as their manicured nails. Karen, the elder, was the worst 300 pounds of entitlement, her voice a grating megaphone of complaints, always cutting in line at the grocery store or berating the post office clerk for incompetence. Lynn, slimmer but no less vicious, trailed her sister like a shadow, echoing her every word. Evelyn shuffled to the post office, her worn sneakers dragging on the cracked pavement. The clerk, a nervous kid named Tim, confirmed her worst fears. The check had been delivered, signed for, and cashed. Signed by who? Evelyn demanded, her voice cracking. Tim hesitated, then slid a photocopy of the signature across the counter. It was a sloppy scrawl, nothing like Evelyn's careful cursive, but the name was unmistakable, Evelyn Carter. Her stomach churned. Someone had forged her name, and she knew exactly who. The HOA sisters lived in a gaudy McMansion at the edge of town, paid for by their late father's import business, and, rumor had it, shadier dealings. Karen, with her garish leopard print dresses and gold hoop earrings, treated Willow Creek like her personal kingdom. She'd been seen flashing cash at the diner, bragging about easy money, while locals struggled to pay their bills. Lynn, always at her side, would giggle and nod, her eyes scanning for anyone who dared challenge them. The sisters had a reputation for bullying anyone weaker: shopkeepers, waitresses, even the librarian who once shushed them. But stealing pension checks? That was a new low, even for them. Evelyn wasn't one to confront. She'd always been the peacemaker, the one who smiled through hardship. But this was different. That check was her survival, her dignity. She marched to the HOA sisters' house, her frail frame trembling with fury. The doorbell chimed like a game show buzzer, and Karen answered, her bulk filling the doorway. "What do you want, old lady?" she sneered, her voice dripping with contempt. Lynn peeked out from behind, smirking. "My pension check," Evelyn said, her voice steady despite the knot in her throat. "You took it. I know you did." Karen laughed, a loud, barking sound that made Evelyn flinch. "You're delusional. Go home before you hurt yourself." She started to close the door, but Evelyn wedged her foot in, surprising even herself. "I saw the signature. It's not mine. You forged it, and I want my money back." Lynn stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "You accusing us? You got no proof, Grandma. Get lost." Evelyn's hands clenched into fists. "I'm not leaving until you make this right." The argument spilled onto the front lawn, drawing neighbors' eyes. Karen's voice grew louder, her face red with indignation. "You think you can come here and slander us? We don't need your pathetic check." She waved a dismissive hand, her gold bracelets jangling. Lynn chimed in, mocking Evelyn's threadbare coat. "Maybe if you didn't dress like a hobo, you wouldn't lose things." Evelyn felt tears prick her eyes, but she refused to back down. "You're thieves," she said, loud enough for the gathering crowd to hear. "You stole from me, and I'll prove it." The crowd murmured, and Karen's smirk faltered. She hadn't expected an audience. Just then, a man in a dark coat stepped forward, his badge glinting in the fading sunlight. Inspector Daniel Hayes, a federal postal investigator, had been watching the HOA sisters for weeks. Tips from locals had led him to suspect they were intercepting mail, forging signatures, and cashing checks meant for vulnerable residents like Evelyn. He'd been waiting for a moment like this. "Ms. HOA," Hayes said, his voice calm but firm. I'd like to see your ID and any documents related to pension checks you've handled recently. Karen's face froze, her bravado crumbling. This is harassment, she sputtered. You can't just. I can. Hayes cut in, holding up a warrant. Stealing mail is a federal offense. Forging a pension check? That's up to 7 years in prison. Each. Lynn's smirk vanished, and she grabbed Karen's arm, whispering frantically. But Karen shoved her away, her voice rising to a shriek. This is a setup. You're all jealous of us. We're successful, and you're just. Save it, Hayes said, motioning to 2 officers who'd appeared behind him. He turned to Evelyn. Mrs. Carter, would you like to press charges? Evelyn hesitated, her anger warring with her instinct to forgive. She looked at Karen, who was now pale and sweating, her arrogance replaced by panic. Lynn was already crying, pleading with the officers. The crowd watched in silence, some nodding in approval, others shaking their heads at the sisters' downfall. Evelyn thought of the months she'd gone hungry, the bills she'd paid late, the humiliation of begging for extensions. She thought of the other victims' widows, veterans, single mothers who'd been too afraid to speak up. Yes, Evelyn said finally. I want justice. The officers cuffed the sisters, Karen's protests echoing as they were led to the patrol car. She tripped on the curb, her leopard print dress catching on her heels, and for a moment, she looked small, pathetic even. Lynn sobbed, her mascara streaking as the car door slammed shut. The crowd dispersed, whispering about karma and long overdue consequences. Hayes stayed behind, helping Evelyn file a report. He recovered her stolen check and 2 others the sisters had cashed, along with a stash of forged documents hidden in their garage. The evidence was damning: bank records, surveillance footage, even a boastful text from Karen to Lynn, another easy $800. Old bats never check their mail. The sisters faced multiple felony charges, and Willow Creek buzzed with the news for weeks. Evelyn got her money back, plus restitution for the earlier thefts. She didn't gloat, she wasn't that kind of woman. But as she sat in her kitchen, sipping tea from a chipped mug, she felt a weight lift. The mailbox no longer mocked her. It was just a mailbox again, holding her check, her dignity, her small piece of justice. The HOA sisters' trial was swift. Karen, ever defiant, tried to pin the blame on Lynn, but the evidence was airtight. They were sentenced to 5 years each, their McMansion sold to cover legal fees and victim reparations. The town never forgot, and neither did Evelyn. She started a support group for seniors, teaching them to check their mail, report fraud, and stand up to bullies. Her quiet strength became Willow Creek's new legend, a reminder that even the meek could fight back. As for Karen and Lynn, their empire of entitlement crumbled behind bars. They'd underestimated the town, the law, and one stubborn old lady who refused to be a victim. Karma, it turned out, had a long memory and a sharp bite. The end.